This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast, a binge watcher's guide to streaming movies, TV series, and stuff.
We are discussing All the Old Knives. And this is a movie that I didn't know what to make of it when I got interested in it actually when I was editing our What's Streaming in April video, Jojo. And the way you framed the whole thing with your voiceover, and I was like, this sounds interesting, and I'm going to watch it as soon as it comes out.
Yeah.
And dude, I have to say, this movie is really, really something, and it's actually, for me, it's a cinema movie. It should have come out on cinema.
I agree with you. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So, Jojo, what can you tell? What can you tell us about this one?
So it's billed as a spy thriller, and it is based on a book and a book of the same name, I do believe. It's about a terrorist hijacking that happened in 2012 of an airplane, and the United States had a set of intelligence agents in Europe, and now it's 8 years past the event. And they have discovered that someone in that team leaked information to the bad guys. Essentially, they were a mole, and they need to find out who this person is and close the case on what exactly happened with this flight. And so that Chris Pine plays a character pulled in who was part of the original team, but he's pulled in by his current boss, played by Lawrence Fishburne. Name is Vic, who says, we need to find out who this mole is, and I think you're the best person to find out who it is, and essentially sends him out after what's left of the team. And this story is about his interaction with who you could consider the last member of the team, Celia, which they do have a history, and what happens when they come together, and he sort of interrogates her about what happened.
Yes, pretty much. Jonathan Pryce and Thandie Newton are the interrogees,
Yes.
and I think the rest of the story needs to be seen, because this is a fine piece of movie. And now that you say that there's a book about it, I want to read that book.
I do too. Like I was like, I really want to see. I want to read this for myself. I want to see the differences and that kind of thing, because I enjoyed this movie very much, and I enjoyed the fact that it's a grown up movie. It's not
Yes.
it's an adult movie, and by that I don't mean it's rated X or anything, but it's made for grown ups, and it's about grown up problems and grown up decisions, and I like that about it. I feel like we don't get a whole lot of that lately in cinema.
Yes. What I see in this movie is, one, whoever adapted this movie, understood the plight of writers when their stuff is adapted to movies, and decided, I'm going to respect the work of this writer, of this novelist, and I'm going to do my best to translate his book into a film where there is almost no great gap between the two things. Am I wrong here, Jojo?
It's really funny that you say that, because the screenwriter is the person who wrote the novel.
Okay.
So you caught it 100%. 100%.
Because the thing is that everything happened like if it were a book. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was about the dialogue. This was about nuance. This was about every detail that a book would describe. The beautiful thing is that the film presents that to you masterfully. Any other format would be boring as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie keeps you in, and it gives you the feeling of reading a spy novel. Not watching a spy movie, but reading a spy novel, isn't it?
I agree with you. I think that's a great comparison, and I didn't think of that at all. But when you're saying that, that completely makes sense to me. That's 100% the feeling of reading a really good a really good spy book.
The other thing I like about this movie is that it is a very smart story. It's
Yes.
not it's not an incredibly predictable story because it was said that, yeah, okay, there was a mole, right?
Hmm.
But even through all the flashbacks, you don't know. It's not your typical, I think I can guess who the mole is. You
Yeah.
always see it as, oh, no, 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 they're just fishing. They're just fishing. And maybe there was no mole. Like I was thinking the entire time, maybe there was no mole. It all seems like they were looking for a scapegoat.
Agreed.
A predictable spy story, typically you would have been like, how couldn't they see that this guy is the guy? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that to me was the smart part of it. Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And also not to the point of making you completely confused where you were like sometimes I think script writers confuse intelligence with confusion. And the more I can confuse the audience, the more smart that makes the script seem. But that's not the case. It can be an intelligent script and a followable script. It doesn't need to be incomprehensible to be intelligent. And I think sometimes that script writers are like, okay, if we just throw everything in there and make it as confusing as possible, then it's going to be labeled a smart movie. And that's not true. And that was not the case here. Cinematically too, like the scenes in the restaurant are gorgeous, which is just,
Yes.
with over the ocean and the sun going down, which is, a lovely little allegory to the story that's happening. But I mean, that would be lovely on the big screen. And, Thandwe Newton is a lovely person. It'd be lovely to see her, 20
Yeah.
feet tall or whatever. So, yeah.
I think this is one of those movies that can become an instant classic because of the way it was written, because of the cast in it, and also, again, because it is a very, very smart story. Like you said, it wasn't your typical, let's just create a whole labyrinth of confusion and blah, blah, blah. This is, to me, one of the most interesting interrogation films I've ever seen. As you said, the cinematography here is absolutely fantastic. Those scenes in the restaurant, how do you make an almost empty restaurant so interesting
Yes.
and watchable?
Yes, it's compelling. The restaurant is compelling. Like
Yeah.
when he first walks in, I was like, wow. And like it's I feel like I'm getting deep and woo woo here, but I mean, I feel like the restaurant was almost a whole movie set in itself for the interrogation that happened. That it
Yes.
was a part of the ambiance, part of how we're going to do this, how this interrogation is going to go, and what the ultimate result was. It felt like it was its own character in the movie. Like that set was important. Like if they had just been in a room somewhere, I don't know that it would have been quite as compelling. It would have still
Yes.
been compelling, but I
Yeah.
feel like that the restaurant and the view and the waiters and the food and the wine and that kind of thing, I think it just added.
Beautiful.
It was a beautiful, important component of the movie.
Yeah. I think also we get a story that has several branches here.
Hmm.
And there's a branch of course, spy, mystery, thriller, whatever. But it just turns out that at the end, it was a love story, isn't it?
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
a love story.
yeah.
And that was beautifully played. Like I was like, well played. You got
Yes.
me here. You got me here. It's not a rom-com bullshit, No, 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 no. It's a love story. And you said something here that I love is that it's the grown-up kind of love story.
Yeah.
It's not the whole the blue sky and blah blah blah. It's what are you willing to do when you're told that the person you love can become the sacrificial lamb and you have the key to make that not happen.
No,
This is deeper than that. This is
yeah,
deeper. You have to watch this movie if only for this particular part of it, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
So you get a story here that has several branches, and it's complex. It has the nuance, and there is no cliche that I can find. To me, that's what makes this movie a beautiful one. Let's talk about the cast.
Mhm.
We've already mentioned some people here. We've dropped names, haven't we?
We have we have name dropped.
So Chris Pine, I don't know how old this guy is, but like he's getting there's something of an added quality to him over
He
the past few years, isn't he?
Yeah, he like I felt like he was like kind of ridiculous, if that sounds right, to begin with, like when he was a young actor, like I'm talking like
Yeah,
I don't know, 20 years ago when his first film came out or whatever. But I
yeah,
feel like he's really matured into like he's got this gravitas and this, as you
yes,
said before, elegance about him that
yeah.
is very, very attractive as an actor and as a person. So I don't know where it's coming from, but he's doing something right.
Yeah, he definitely is. He definitely is. Tandiwa Newton, she is sometimes I think of her as a little bit underrated, but
Mhm.
like sometimes I say to myself, maybe that's a lie because she gets some good ass roles and she always delivers. So
Mhm.
how is she underrated? You know what I mean? Like for
Right.
me, she would be on. It's just that like I don't hear a lot of people singing her praises as they should. Uh,
No,
you know what I mean?
yeah, it's like when you see she's gonna be in something, you're like, "Oh, this she's gonna be good," like, the movie might not be good
Yeah.
necessarily, but she's gonna be good because she's consistently is. But it's like, for me personally, like, I don't think of her very often until she pops up.
Yeah,
Does that
exactly.
make sense? It's like, "Oh, I wonder what her next movie is gonna be." She doesn't enter my head, so to me, that it's kinda like she's underrated because I should be thinking about her because she's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I
That's for
love
sure.
it. I love her. I love her. Then you have Jonathan Price.
Yes.
You know, I mean, this old dude pops up and you're like, yeah, this is about to be good. you know,
Yep.
it's about to be good. What impresses me about this old dude is that he plays from that movie, the Two Popes.
Yes.
He plays Cardinal Bergoglio, who is the current Pope, Pope Francis. Man, I believe him. I believe him. Like seriously, I believe him. Like yo, do you know how good you have to be? But again, it's Jonathan Price, so
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
there's no
He's
question.
he's kind of a class amongst himself.
Yeah,
So,
Lawrence Fishburne is one of those guys that I feel like if he was British, there should be a Sir Lawrence Fishburne. It would be a Sir behind his name, in
I
front of his
agree.
name.
I
You know,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like I believe everything he plays.
Yeah.
Everything he plays. If he play an Italian mobster,
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, it could be a black Italian mobster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
Totally.
not? You know,
It's Lawrence Fishburne, so of course it's possible.
exactly. Exactly. Like, yeah, man. Why not?
Yeah. Mhm.
And this actress who played Layla Marouf, her name is Acht. That's it.
Mhm.
AHD. Acht. Is that for real?
I don't know that I've seen her in anything before, but I thought she was really compelling. Like she's a very
Yes.
striking looking woman and very her performance was very honest and compelling and I was like, why haven't I seen this lady in other things? Honestly, is what I was thinking. Was like I feel like I should know her from other things. And I do see that she's been in a few TV series, but not ones that I've seen, but she really hasn't been in a whole lot, so I don't know if she's more of a stage actor or what, but
Well, it says here that she's from Saudi Arabia. Her full name is Ahd Hassan Hamel. And she's an award-winning actress. And she was in a BAFTA 2014 BAFTA-nominated film Wajah.
I thought that, David Dawson was good as Owen Lasseter
Yeah.
Um, he's been in quite a few things that I have not seen.
Okay.
But I thought he was very good in this part. I thought, again, it was an actor that was compelling when he was on screen that you watched, and I felt that he was sort of, I don't know, to me, he looked like an agent that could have been around in the '60s or was just as, you know, believable as being in 2012, but it kind of felt like he was like an ageless spy in the sense of
Yes.
his character, like he could have been a spy at any time,
The
no matter what he
classic
did.
spy
Yeah, yeah,
type of portrait. Yeah. Uh,
yeah, I thought he did a really great job with that.
yeah. What do you think of this kid, Abdul Al Sharif? Like he was, whenever they referred to terrorists, he was like the only one that you kept saying, the terrorists on the plane.
Yes, he
Um,
was the kind of the face of that flight.
yeah. But
Yeah,
like it was compelling because he always looked like, for a terrorist, he always looked like somebody who was incredibly scared and
yeah,
sort of like in over his head
yeah,
in
yeah,
every scene that you saw him. Like, I don't know why I'm doing here, what I'm doing here. I was like,
yeah.
y-
Like, there's one scene where he's talking to an older passenger. It was like, "Grandfather, you know why we're doing this?"
yes,
And I
yes,
was just like, "Oh, that hit
yeah,
hard." Like,
yeah,
that was painful. And yeah, I think he turned in a beautiful performance as, as much he wasn't on screen for very much, but when he was,
exactly.
it was you felt bad for him because, like you said, he felt like he was completely in over his head,
Yeah, yeah,
and it wasn't
that's,
going the way he thought it was gonna go
I
or the
think
way
that's
he was
exactly
told.
right. Yes, I think that's exactly right. It's just there's a lot of nuance in this movie, and you have to watch it for yourself. In
Yeah.
terms of stars, what would you assign to this, Judge?
Oh, I'd say a solid 3 and 3/4, like almost a 4, but not quite.
Yeah, I'll give it the whole four, man. I'll give it the whole four. I think
Yeah.
it was this kind of movie.
Yeah.
I'll,
It's good.
yeah.
It's good. And
So
rare.
yes, yes. This is a movie of another time, basically in 2022, and it's sort of like refreshing to see.
Yeah.
I want to say that.
Yeah.
Very well then. So we have arrived to the end of these particular discussion. For now, for me and for Jojo, this is the time we say goodbye, folks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.